Today is Palm Sunday. John chapter 12, verse 12 tells us the next day, I hope I've got that as the first slide. All right. The next day, when the large crowd that had come to the festival heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, you remember this, they took palm branches and went out to meet him. And they kept shouting, "Hosanna! He who comes in the name of the Lord is the blessed one, the King of Israel." That was Palm Sunday. We've heard that story. We've shared that together many times. Would you consider with me this morning Palm Saturday or Palm Sunday Eve? The day before Palm Sunday, what happened? In John chapter 12, the first 11 verses preceding John chapter 12. Verse 1, the beginning of it says that 6 days before the Passover. Now John, you remember writing this gospel, he was Jesus' best friend on planet Earth. He is writing this eyewitness, first-hand account. Years later, perhaps, when he finally had time to sit down and write, but he wrote the story and he gives us this detail 6 days before the Passover. Now, if you imagine with me that the Passover started when the Sabbath started at Friday afternoon at 6 o'clock. Remember, the Sabbath was Friday at 6 to Saturday at 6. That's the beginning. If you would imagine that that's the beginning of Passover, which many of us traditionally believe, and you count backwards, Friday at 6, Thursday at 6 is 1 day, Wednesday at 6 is 2 days, Tuesday at 6 is 3 days, Monday at 6 is 4 days. I wrote this down because I didn't think I could count backwards in days. Sunday at 6 is 5 days. Saturday evening at 6 o'clock would be 6 days before the Passover. You remember what happened on Friday, the Passover day, Jesus hung on the cross and died. 6 days before the Passover is when this occurred, probably at about just after 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. Why after 6? Well, because the fast, the Sabbath, ended at 6 and they broke the fast by having a meal. It is entirely possible that this was a big meal that happened at just after 6 o'clock when they had time to prepare the meal on Saturday evening before Palm Sunday. Verse 1 tells us that 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus was, the one that Jesus raised from the dead. Well, if you will allow me, please, to show you the map. Just one little piece of the map. We've been talking about all of this region up over here in Asia Minor, all the way to Europe. We're going to go back down here. Here's the little town of Jerusalem, just a couple of miles away from it was the town of Bethany. That's where Mary and Martha and Lazarus, 3 siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, lived there together. It was 6 days before the Passover. Jesus came to Bethany. He came back from Jerusalem. Every day he kind of went into town, and at night he would retreat to the town of Bethany. Had a lot of friends there. John chapter 11 verse 18 tells us that it was about 2 miles away. But verse 2 tells us that they gave him a dinner there. Martha, like we've seen her do before, Martha was serving him, and Lazarus was one of those reclining at the table. Now, this didn't apparently happen at Mary and Martha and Lazarus' home. Jesus went to their home many times, but this meal apparently happened, if you read the other Gospels, at a man named Simon's house. But Lazarus and Martha and Mary were guests there, and Lazarus was leaning at the table. Martha was serving. Everybody in Bethany knew about Lazarus' death, and everybody in town knew that Jesus undid the funeral. I started to ask Dad to testify. Dad, of all the years that you were in the funeral business, did you ever see one get undid? Mark Lowry, the comedian, shows up and says if Jesus shows up at a funeral procession, the funeral's over. Jesus could mess a funeral processional up. Jesus reversed it. He undid that death of Lazarus by raising him back to the life. And everybody in Bethany, everybody in town knew it. He did a miracle. It wasn't impossible because nothing is impossible with God. But it was highly unlikely. Takeaway number 1. When God does something awe-inspiring in your life, throw a party, invite your friends, invite Jesus, and celebrate. You know, I spend a lot of time, I talk about it a lot of time, a lot of Sundays, maybe you get tired of hearing it, but when I go around and I call your names out in prayer, I call your names, I pray that God would do an awe-inspiring work in your life. God did an awe-inspiring work in Lazarus, Martha, and Mary's lives, and everybody in Bethany knew about it. And so they thought it would be appropriate to throw a party and celebrate. Let's invite Jesus to come to the party, and let's celebrate what God had done. Everybody knew it. That's why I pray that God would do something awe-inspiring or jaw-dropping in your life. It's easy, would you agree with this statement? It is easy to throw a party and celebrate when God is at work in your life. June 11, 2016. Where's your wife at, Jim? We threw a party and celebrated what God had done in Jim and Amy's lives. We celebrated together. We have 3 more of those celebrations in the next few weeks. John and Lori are getting married. Amen. Hans and Ashley are getting married. Amen. And Kyle is getting married to some girl named Lauren. We ain't better yet. May 7th, 2017, that was a year ago, we threw a grand opening party at this building and baptized 4 folks. We celebrated together. Amen. Yesterday at the Easter egg hunt, we as families in our church family, we celebrated together with our kids. Next Sunday morning, Easter Sunday morning, we're throwing a party after church and we're having a baptismal ceremony. We currently are up to 7. Amen. I'm praying for 25, but we got 7 right now, so come to the altar. Every week, folks are meeting in their homes and we fellowship and we talk and we laugh and we cry and we pray and we play. At our 2:47 a.m. groups, we're celebrating what God is doing in our lives. I often say, who wouldn't want to be a part of this? Man, that's what our 2:47 a.m. groups need to be. That's what our church needs to be. That's what our lives need to be, a celebration. And people look and say, who wouldn't want to get some of that? Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? This story in John 12 was less than 1 week away from Good Friday when Jesus would be dead and gone. They couldn't see it. They didn't, none of those people understood what Jesus was saying when he said, I'm going to be dead for 3 days and then I'll rise again. What? What is he saying? What is he talking about? Nobody understood it. But on this day they had Jesus with them and he had done an awe-inspiring work in their town and they celebrated it. Can I just say to you that I've been a Christian for a long time, and I'll just honestly say to you, there have been some periods of my Christian spiritual journey when I didn't realize that Christianity was about celebrating. It was a lot heavier than that. There was a lot of rules you had to follow and regulations you had to keep. I don't think I realized that what God wanted me to do was to celebrate what he was doing in my life. I love that. Our theme for the year is DLT in 2018, doing life together. It has that idea at its core. If your Christian, religious, spiritual journey has become dry and mundane, may I simply encourage you to throw a party. To help kick that off in your life, this afternoon unofficially at 4 o'clock, officially at 5 o'clock, we're having a church-wide social. Translated, we're celebrating together what God is doing in our lives. I hope you'll be there. Verse 3, then Mary took a pound of fragrant oil, pure and expensive nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped his feet with her hair. So the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. A couple of weeks ago, I took Jackson, Clyde, and Muggsy for a walk at Milliken. And Muggsy took off into the woods, and I saw him rolling in the leaves. And he came back in the house. And he had found, apparently, some skunk oil to roll in. and that aroma, that fragrance filled our house. And Hope got on the internet and found the awfulest concoction you've ever seen, and we got that smell out of Muggsy. On the other end of the fragrance of the house spectrum, I'll never forget. I don't know if your nose can memorize, but my nose memorizes. It remembers going to Mama and Papa's house and the smell of slow cooked green beans cooked in fatback.
Come on. That'll preach.
Man, I hope somebody's bringing fatback beans this evening. The memory of the fragrance of fatback filling the house will forever be etched in my mind. I just got hungry. The fragrance of nard, it doesn't sound especially aromatic. The fragrance of nard filled the home where this party was being held. The fragrance of the nard probably superseded the smell of kosher green beans. Think about it, they used that back then, they used kosher green beans. The smell of nard superseded any other smells. They didn't use fatback. The house was filled with the aroma of that perfume that Mary had taken and poured out. Verse 5 will tell us in a minute that the nard cost 300 denarii. That was equivalent to a year's salary for an average person. Take your salary, let's say $300,000, just saying. Imagine something you have in your house worth yeah, I hear you, Hans. Yeah. Are there any other hands following? $300,000. Say it's $50,000. What do you have in your home? Maybe it is your home or your car that's worth $50,000, or something expensive in your home. It's worth a year's salary. She took that gift and she poured it out on the ground on Jesus' feet. Takeaway number 2. Give something expensive to Jesus. And I'll just tell you, I'll say this a half a dozen times this morning. I hesitate. I am not even going to go there and try to make application of what that might mean in your life. Give something expensive to Jesus. Through Jesus, God had done something incredible in the life of Lazarus and his 2 sisters and the entire town of Bethany. But even at that, I wonder if the 3 of them, Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, had gotten together as a family, had a family come to Jesus' meeting and decided and voted, should we take this gift? That's a year's salary. That's a chunk of our retirement. Should I take that gift to the party? It's awfully expensive. It sure did take a lot of years for us to gather that. Maybe it was only Mary's. Maybe she decided it on her own. Maybe the purpose of the whole celebration meal was so that the 3 of them could give this special gift to Jesus. That's a big gift. It is a great sacrifice, a year's salary. Do you have a pound of nard sitting around your house, waiting for a special event? I don't know what that might look like to you, to give something expensive to Jesus. What do you have that is expensive, or maybe valuable is a better word? Really, I'm at a loss of how to communicate what that might look like to your life, or closer to my home, what might that look like in my life? And even if I could write it down, okay, I'm going to give this thing, or this time, or this whatever to the Lord, it gets even stranger than that. Look at verse 3 again. Mary took a pound of fragrant oil, pure and expensive nard, anointed Jesus' feet with it, and wiped his feet with her hair. So the house was filled with fragrance. Takeaway number 3, do something unconventional with that gift. Mary didn't just transfer the gift. Here, Jesus, we brought this gift. It's very expensive. It's worth a year's salary. We'd like to give you this gift, and you can use it however is appropriate. You can sell it off. You can give it to your treasury. You can invest it. You can do whatever you want to with it. Please take this gift for what you've done for us. You might need this money sometime. No, first of all, she took the gift, turned it up, and poured it out on the ground. Do something unconventional with it. Once the nard hits the floor, it might make the house smell good for a while, but the value of that nard is gone. poured out on the ground. If I had a can of hairspray, I'd spray it around. There you go, there's your gift. The whole room would smell good, but the value of what was in the can is gone. It's evaporated into thin air. It evaporated and dried up on the ground. Whoa, hang on a second. Don't do that with it. Don't do that with a gift. First of all, she turned it upside down and poured it out. And the second is she got down on her hands and knees and washed her feet with her hair. Can I just show you what that would look like? So she gets down on her hands and knees and she pours it out. And she takes her hair. Now, my hair's not long enough. I should have had Megan come up here and me stand there and she'd wash my feet with her hair. And she takes her hair and she washes Jesus' feet with her hair. Now, that'll suck the air out of a room, won't it? Taking something expensive and doing something unconventional with it. Here's what I'm going to do with my unconventional gift. I'm going to pour it out as an offering on Jesus' feet. Then in an act of worship, I'm going to bow down before Him and I'm going to wash His feet with my hair. What's she doing? As a rabbit trail, I wonder if the disciples remembered this on Thursday night of that same week when Jesus got down on His hands and knees and washed those disciples' feet. I'm not telling you to jump out of a perfectly good airplane without a parachute. I'm just telling you that you and I might have the opportunity to do something remarkably unconventional with something of great value. I can't say what that is in your life, but as soon as you do it or announce that you're going to do it, enter naysayers, stage left. Verse 4, then one of the disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was about to betray Him, said, guys, why did you all not take this fragrant oil and sell it for 300 denarii and give it to the poor? Takeaway number 4, expect naysayers. They're coming. Imagine the next day or the next Saturday when Jesus is dead. Next Saturday, 1 week from Palm Saturday evening. The next Saturday, Jesus was dead, buried in the tomb, rock over the tomb, sealed, done, finished. That was it. It was over with. The next Saturday, do you imagine that folks said, well, Mary, I bet you wish you had that year's salary back. Did you regret pouring out that gift? I hope your hair still smells good, Mary. Doing something unconventional with something expensive will fly in the face of conventional wisdom. And there will be naysayers. In fact, John only calls out Judas. It's probably because he led the complaint. If you go read Matthew's account of this same story in Matthew 26, it says that when the disciples, plural, saw it, they were indignant. Why this waste, they asked. There were apparently a bunch of unconventional naysayers. But watch verse 6. Judas didn't say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He was in charge of the money bag and would steal part of what was put in that money bag. What if Mary would have given that gift to Jesus? And Jesus would have passed it on to the treasurer. Here, Judas, will you hang on to that? Will you do something? Maybe take it and we'll sell it off and we can reinvest it. We can make some money out of it. I don't know if Mary knew Judas's heart, but in Judas's heart, he wasn't concerned about the 300 denarii that was poured out. He was concerned about the portion of that he would get because he was a thief. Takeaway number 5. Beware of conventional wisdom that is really just selfish or impure motive shrouded in conventional wisdom. Sounded all rational and reasonable and like conventional wisdom. If she had given the gift to Jesus and let the treasure done with it, that would have made a lot more sense. But at the core was really Judas's heart problem. It's hard to get your hands around one of Jesus' inner 12, having seen all of His miracles, knowing firsthand who He was. Judas had to know that Jesus could get past the outward appearance and look and go straight to the heart. Let me summarize this with this encouraging word. The motive of your heart is what matters. You know that, don't you? Yeah, everybody, yeah, nod. It might be unconventional. It might not be reasonable. It might not make sense, but God is looking at your heart. Jesus knew how much nard was worth, a year's salary. But he also knew the value of Mary's heart. It's priceless. Verse 7, Jesus answered, "Leave her alone. She has kept it for the day of my burial." Takeaway number 6, trust Jesus to cover your back. Leave her alone, he said. Don't you want Jesus to say that on your behalf? Look at this verse, Matthew chapter 26. That's what I will say in the Matthew account of this same story. Jesus says, "I assure you that wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told in memory of her." The naysayers, hey, won't it get lost? A year's salary given away or poured out in a moment? It'll just dry up on the ground and it'll rot, it'll evaporate. Jesus said, no, this is a big gift. This is a big gift that she gave. The whole world will hear about it for a very, very long time. Like in Bowling Springs, South Carolina, 2,000 years later, we'll still be reading this story and we'll still be talking about it. That's how big that gift was. It's still paying dividends. There's still being return on investment long after Mary was gone. Jesus can cover you. Leave her. I love that. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. I'm looking at her heart. I'm going to take that gift that's on the ground that's dried up there, that smelly stuff. I'm going to take that gift and I'm going to return investment for years and hundreds of years, for millennia. Mary could not have had any idea that she was preparing Jesus for his burial. Dad would tell you that the Jewish tradition is not to embalm. They don't embalm the Jewish. I think, Dad, nod your head if I'm right. They don't embalm folks in the Jewish religion. They bury them that same day. Mary was embalming Jesus' body days in advance. It's interesting to consider that this was probably the last relaxing evening of Jesus' life. Verse 8, you always have the poor with you, but you don't always have me. Takeaway number 7, there will always be ways to rationalize not doing what God has placed on your heart.
Right.
Oh, it's a hard one, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. It's unconventional. It defies traditional wisdom. Plus, there's poor people out here. Almost certainly, Jesus was quoting directly from Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 11. There will always be ways to rationalize not doing what God has placed in your heart. You can always come up with a rational sounding reason for not doing something great or giving something great. I'll leave that one alone for you to chew on as well without making application. What a great evening. What a great celebration. What a great gift. What a great challenge. What could possibly go wrong? The next section in the Holman Christian Standard Study Bible is titled, The Decision to Kill Lazarus. Verse 9 through 11, then a large crowd of the Jews learned that he was there. They came not only because of Jesus, but they also came to see Lazarus, the one that Jesus had risen from the dead. Therefore, the chief priest decided to kill Lazarus also, because he was the reason that many of the Jews were deserting them and believing in Jesus. Wait a minute, I thought they were after Jesus. Well, they were kind of after Jesus, but they were really after Lazarus too, because Lazarus was standing living proof that Jesus was the Son of God. I've often wondered if Jesus thought, Jesus, why did you bring me back to life? Not only am I going to have to die again, but these people are trying to murder me. I was already safely dead in the tomb for 4 days. One final takeaway. A changed life is a powerful reason to believe in Jesus. Changed life. Lazarus was the reason that people were giving up religion. That's what the Jews had to offer. They had religion to offer. Lazarus was the reason that they were giving up religion and were choosing to follow Jesus instead, because he brought life and hope and forgiveness and purpose and resurrection from the dead. That's what he had to offer. That's why we call it the gospel, because it's really, really good news. The things that religion could not compete with. It's a beautiful story. One lady, one family who saw God do something special in their lives. Almost impossible. It would have been impossible if God hadn't done it. And she simply decided to take something of great value and give it as an offering. She gave it away and poured it out. I've said a bunch of times this morning, I'm hesitant to make any specific application to your life. I don't want you to go home and say, preacher said I'm supposed to take my pound of nard and come and bring it poured on his feet. The story is too good and too powerful and too personal for me to try to anticipate what that might look like in your life. If Mary's priest had preached on giving away your most expensive gift to Jesus in a weird way, it might have ruined that Palm Saturday celebration for Mary. But I know that I needed to make some kind of application to this. I learned that in homiletics class in Bible college 30 years ago. Can I just take a minute and share with you, at the risk of being misunderstood, and you thinking that I'm somehow comparing myself or ourselves to Mary, can I just say that for Clayton and Hope Houchins, in our lives, that's why we started Church 247. In reality, for Hope and I, starting a church was our gift to God. When we started the church in our home, that we were able to fully fund the church, just Hope and I. We provided both the venue and the menu. We bought the donuts. Everyone could just come for free. We didn't know who, if anyone, would come, except that we guessed that our parents would be there, and they were. And they sat on the front row. Of course, in our living room, everyone that was there was sitting on the front row. Except for Justin and Megan, who sat in those elevated chairs. We said they sat in the balcony. But in just a few weeks, we moved out of our house and we started paying rent. I think that Hope and I could have continued handling the rent for that first building. We could have provided the venue, but somebody else had to pick up the menu. Then we moved again, and Hope and I were way over our heads. My name was and still is on the paperwork. If we sign a lease or do any other business transaction, it's my name on the signature line. And that's exactly how I wanted it. I've said many times how I wish that I could personally fund the entire budget of Church 247. I can't, but I sure wish I could. Why? Because Church 247 is our gift to God. You see, He's done something special in my life, in Hope's life, in our lives. God has done something special in our lives, and for us to start a church it was a gift from us to God. I think I've got a picture of our little church out front. God has graced us and graced us and graced us. And do you know what that means? For Hope and I, that means He has given to us that which we do not deserve, and given to us that which we do not deserve, and given to us that which we do not deserve. And it is our little tiny gift back to Him. Maybe prayerfully other folks are being blessed. Maybe our community and our country and our world would be impacted by Church 247, but for us it's just a little gift back to God. Many of you have said to us, thank you for starting this church. And I almost reply, no, thank you for coming. The little church that we started is much more effective if people show up. Just saying. We didn't know who. Most of you we had never met before in our lives. Of course, the truth be told, not only did we not know who, but we really didn't have a clue how or what either. We're still figuring that out. I will humbly say to you that very quickly, the gift that we offer to the Lord got much, much bigger than mine and Hope's little original gift. It was bigger than us. It wasn't just our gift any longer. It became your gift, and your gift, and your gift.
Right.
Hope got a text this week from Parmel about our kids department. As our kids department continues to grow, the leaders are thinking about the vision and the direction of Kids 247. So Parmela sends a text to Hope, and she says, hey, as we talk about the kids department, I realize that we have never heard the pastor's vision for the kids department. Wonder if he would share his vision with us as leaders. Oh, am I supposed to do that? Blank stare. I need to review my job description and see if that shows up on there. Am I supposed to have a vision for the kids? Bigger than us. Bigger than our vision. Bigger than where we started at. When we started the church, Hope and I, we'd never coined the phrase Kids 247 or 247 AM or The Well or The Hedge or Gather 247 or Cafe 247. I'm looking at the camera. Parmela's back there. Hey, Parmela, hang on. If you give me a little bit of time to think about it, you're way out ahead of me. I throw out clever one-liners on a regular basis. 0 rent and 46,500 people. And I'll just tell you, I ain't real sure what I'm saying. I ain't real sure what I mean. I don't know what it looks like. My only little gift was to do the ridiculous and start a church in our home with no one and no funding and no backing. Another church on Highway 9 in the heart of Bible Belt, South Carolina. But then you came and you brought your gift and your gift and your gift. 46,500 people is impossible unless a bunch of people just show up together, bring their gift, and decide that nothing is impossible with God.
Amen.
You know, we can take our little gifts and He can multiply them. He has taken our little gifts and multiplied them. Our gift wasn't anything like Mary's gift. What has Church 247 cost us? It hasn't cost us anything. Maybe we've spent a little bit of time, but that's it. And God has taken that expenditure of time and He has given us an amazing return on investment. Our lives are immeasurably richer and fuller because of you and your giftedness. We just wanted to throw a party and hope somebody would show up so that we could celebrate. Almost 3.5 years later, it might be easy for me to say, but here are some clever churchy one-liners for you, some clever cliches. It's not really that hard to bring your gift to God. Bring your gift. Lay it down. Pour it out. Watch it grow. Bring it to the feet of Jesus. Aren't those great one-liners that we hear over and over? Just bring your gift, Kyle. Bring your gift to the Lord and just pour it out. Let go and let God. Those clever one-liners that we hear. Who knows, they might still be talking about that 2,000 years from now.
Amen.
I just walked through the kitchen this morning and I patted Amy on the back and I said, thank you for your giftedness to our church as she cut donuts. I hope that legacy lives with her 2,000. I hope we're still talking about that 2,000 years from now. You know what's hard to imagine? It's hard to imagine the impact of Mary's gift to Jesus Himself. The next day was Palm Sunday. It was the start of Passion Week, a week in which Jesus would be betrayed, sold out, arrested, tried, beat to a pulp, and left hanging on a tree. I wonder if His feet still smelled like nard. Did Mary ever regret giving up her gift? Not a chance. You may have heard this story. The movie was titled The End of the Spear. Jim Elliot was a missionary to Ecuador to the Waodani tribe. He, along with 4 others, Nate Saint and others, were martyred by that tribe. Jim and his guys, when they were there in Ecuador, they had guns. But they had vowed together not to use them against these tribal people. They willingly allowed these tribal people to take their lives. But those 5 men's wives and children, after the 5 men were dead as martyrs at the hands of that Waodani tribe, the spears of of that tribe, those five men's wives and children went back into that tribe and shared the gospel, and the tribe was converted to Jesus Christ. Jim and his co-laborers took something very expensive, their own lives. And they did something very unconventional with them. They poured their lives out. In his book written well before this happened, Jim Elliot made a statement, you've probably heard it. He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Application? Do you have a gift? Do you want to bring it to Him? Do you want to bring it to the feet of Jesus and pour it out and let it go? And let your gift be a sweet-smelling fragrance in His presence. I'll leave that for you as an applicant. I'm not telling you to go do anything crazy. But I'll tell you what, if we decide in our hearts and lives, I'm going to take this, it might be time, it might be possessions, it might be money, it might be relationship, it might be whatever. I'm going to take this prized possession and I'm going to bring it to the feet of Jesus and pour it out and lay it down and just watch and see if He will bring return on investment for His kingdom. I hope Parmel is here. I asked her to come out of retirement this morning and sing a song that we haven't heard in a while. We're just a couple minutes early. Do we know if she's here? Justin's going to get Parmel. Can I close with this challenge? Will you imagine this morning that we're here at a banquet? We're here to celebrate at a banquet this morning, and Jesus is here. And He showed up this morning. And we came and we brought ourselves. We brought all of our grace. Remember what grace is? It's getting what we don't deserve. We brought all of our gifts. Where God has blessed us and blessed us and blessed us and blessed us and blessed us. And here we are, and we're having a big celebration in Jesus' church.